update. Now technically, I could do this show every single day, and I could give you a Nanny State update. Because every single day that you are alive in this country, there is somebody, probably hundreds of people, in Washington that are doing everything that they can to take away your rights, your liberties, your taxes, and make you more beholden to the companies that you work for and the government that is supposed to keep you. So, what are we going to talk about tonight? Specifically, we're going to talk about cigarettes. But first off, I want to tell you that the government thinks that your kids are too fat. The government doesn't want you to drink soda. The government wants to regulate your diet. The government doesn't want, or maybe they do want, to tell you to spank your children. But the point is, you are unfit to do what you want to do. You're unfit to choose the drugs that you take. You're unfit to choose the diet that you keep. And they're allowed to mandate all of these things for you because the government always knows best. That's the way that laws like the Prevent All Cigarette Trafficking Act of 2009 come into play. So, what is the Prevent All Trafficking Act of 2009? It is a law that went in effect quietly on June 29th of this year. Nobody really realized it was out there. Nobody really realized it was passed because it was pretty much one of those ambivalent laws that gets passed in the middle of the night. And what does it do? It doesn't allow people to ship cigarettes using U.S. postage. Now, part of the issue that we have today is that FedEx and UPS don't allow the shipping of tobacco products. So most companies, if you are an internet retailer or if you're sending cigarettes to somebody else, you require the ability to use the U.S. Postal Service. So this act went into play because the government said to the voting population that we need a law in place that doesn't allow people to send cigarettes because we don't want our 13-year-old children out there going out and buying a whole bunch of mail-order cigarettes on the internet and having them shipped to their house. So, when you say something like that, it's like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. No harm, no foul. But the reality is there's a lot of harm. There's a lot of foul. The reality is, as a parent, you know if your kid is ordering cigarettes. You don't need the government to tell you if your children are fat. And what happens when the government sits down and starts putting laws in your face day after day after day? Well, every single time that they restrict your freedom, they bring in consequences that they never intended to bring in. And what has happened with this cigarette act that prevents us from using specific forms of the U.S. mail? People are no longer allowed to send cigarettes to the people who are fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan. So let's think about this. I'm out all day, I've got my machine gun, I'm walking around the streets of Afghanistan, somebody's throwing a couple of grenades at me, there's a couple snipers taking a shot at me, I go back to the barracks at the end of the day, and oh, you know what? One of the few things that I like in life is my coffee and my cigarettes, and nobody can send them to me. Why? Because Mr. Herb Kohl, Democrat from Wisconsin, got it in his mind that we want to take away the ability for people to actually give cigarettes or send cigarettes in the U.S. mail. You have to sign for them because you know what? Our 13-year-olds need to be protected. Well, you know what? Our 13-year-olds don't need to be protected by Uncle Sam. Our 13-year-olds need to be protected by mom and dad. And mom and dad are the ones that have the credit cards in the house. Do you know a lot of people who have 13-year-old kids that have credit cards? What's the real reason this was passed? Because people were ordering cigarettes and getting around what? The taxes. So they passed a law, they made it sound like they were trying to help our kids, and all they really wanted was to ensure that people weren't avoiding the taxes that they have to pay day in and day out on cigarettes. And why do they need you to pay taxes? They need you to pay taxes so badly so Michelle Obama and her family can go to Spain and spend $250,000 of your money on a vacation. We don't need these types of laws. We don't need these types of representatives. Have a great night. Thank you much.